Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. An important part of Detroit's comeback involves creating a healthier and cleaner city. Air pollution and climate change are pressing environmental issues for Detroit residents. The group Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice is leading the charge to develop the city's first ever climate action plan. Joining me now is the organization's policy director, Kimberly Hill-Knott. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you and I have had this conversation many times about how dirty a city this is from an environmental perspective. When you think about the number of factories that we have that operate now that spew all kinds of things into the air and into the soil, you think about the history of this city, the factories that no longer exist, but whose impact on the land and the air is still with us. This is not just a side issue in Detroit. This is one of the issues that sort of challenges us in terms of the future.
That's so true. And, you know, I remember a pastor saying, whenever there are great challenges, there are also great opportunities. And this is really an opportunity not only for Detroit and other major urban markets to focus on environmental justice, climate justice, economic justice, and the like, but it's also an opportunity for us to sit down with unlikely partners to figure out creative solutions for addressing these issues. Yeah. There's a major conference that's coming here that will really challenge business leaders to invest heavily in pollution control technology, in green infrastructure, looking at how they mitigate their practices to reduce the risk of climate change, and also how do they adapt to climate change. And so there is a growing movement to really embrace the triple bottom market. Yeah. Or the triple bottom line that really calls on companies to be responsible corporate neighbors.
Yeah. So climate action plan for the city of Detroit. Talk about what that is and what you hope it will achieve.
So the Detroiters Working for Environmental Justice through the Detroit Climate Action Collaborative is leading the development of the City of Detroit's first climate action plan. What this plan will do is create innovative solutions, so goals and recommendations for how to address climate change. Looking at mitigation, which means to reduce climate risk, but also looking at adaptation to look at how do we adapt to the inevitable. And so what's so unique about this effort is that it is probably one of the most diverse efforts in the city of Detroit. Yeah. So we have crossed a very fine line in bringing businesses and institutions to the table, but we've also brought residents to the table, public health experts to the table, those who are specialists in energy, solid waste, homes and neighborhoods and the like. And so we're really excited about the launch that will take place very soon with this climate action plan.
You know, still in all, we have various actors in Detroit who don't seem all that open to the idea that that either what they're doing is contributing to climate change and pollution, but that the idea that that they can do it differently. I mean, we still see this weird pushback, I guess, from people who say, well, you know, industry matters and matters maybe more than clean air.
Well, and that's interesting. It's an approach that all of us have been looking at in terms of how do we get business leaders to champion the importance of addressing climate change. Yeah. And so it's a matter of using a B2B marketing strategy. So we have other business leaders talk to their peers about the importance of reducing their climate contributions or their contributions to climate change. Also, businesses have the unique ability to talk about cost savings. And so we know that with businesses, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Right. When we look at residents in the city of Detroit who have been burdened with so many issues besides the environment, we talk about addressing climate change as being a bread and butter issue. So energy poverty, where you're paying 2 mortgages for 1 house.
Right, right, yeah. The effect of this on people in Detroit is the thing that I think is the most concerning. Talk about some of those indicators we see about what effects this is having on people in the city.
Well, one of the major effects is the heavy precipitation and flooding that is taking place. And so this is problematic for 2 reasons. One, because obviously people's houses are being flooded, but two, because of aging infrastructure. So it's being flooded with backed up sewage in their basements,
Right.
which causes hepatitis, or which can cause hepatitis and other
All kinds of
health
stuff.
conditions.
Yeah.
And so that is a major issue that we're looking at, but we're also looking at extreme heat. And when we look at vulnerable populations, particularly our elderly and children who have asthma and other respiratory illnesses, we know that extreme heat can be very dangerous. And so we've been working and talking with the city of Detroit about identifying and establishing cooling centers. And so we're so glad that they have taken that step.
Yeah. As part of the sort of environmental justice community, someone really interested in climate change, I know you have noticed what has happened in the election, the national election, and the direction that seems to be taking shape on those issues. Talk to me about what that looks like for you over the next 4 years in terms of your work. If you have somebody who's in charge of the EPA, for instance, who is himself a polluter, someone who has championed industry over the environment, that makes it real difficult to articulate a different path.
Very true, and that's why my tagline is really from the bottom up by force, because we matter. And the reason I developed that tagline is because we really don't have time to wait on government to rescue us. And so I think what we're about to see is a substantial increase in philanthropy support, and a lot of grassroots organizations really coming to the table and working collaboratively to address climate change, because we know that it probably will not come from the federal government. We also plan to see a lot more lawsuits in defense of protecting the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act and all of the other environmental protections that have been set up for us. And so it's really causing us to look at our strategies, look at who we need to talk to, what we need to do. So it's causing us to be a lot more strategic in our efforts, because we cannot let cabinet members determine the quality of life for Detroit or any other market, any other city, any other state. And so hopefully we'll get our governors on board, we will get our state legislature on board, city government, state government, county government, all of these units of government collaborating and agreeing that we have a responsibility to take care of the least of these and improve the quality of life for everyone in our under our jurisdiction.
After having taken some important steps forward on that issue, we seem like we're about to take a couple back. So it's disappointing, but always press on. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.